I've been trying to figure this out for a few days now. I've wanted to tell my story um, because it was just something that has been on my mind since I was in the hospital. The day I checked myself in, when I first checked myself in, I had to answer a bunch of questions. One of the nurses there was asking, and when when you go to a place like that, they're gonna ask you if you've ever had any suicidal thoughts, and you have to be honest about it. Um, I mean, seriously, why the hell would I have even gone there if I wasn't having thoughts like that? And I was, I told them about the intrusive thoughts I was having, where basically I would start to, I'd be sitting like this or something, and I'd kind of doze off, and it was like when you start to fall asleep and you have that feeling that you're falling and you wake up right away. Well, I would do that, and instead of feeling like I was falling, I would have this quick dream where I have a gun to my head, and I would wake up like I was falling. But I want to go back a little further and talk about what happened when I was in my mid 20s to early 30s. Some of the people that knew me back then are probably going to be shocked by this, and I'll I'll explain as I go. When I was 26 years old, I met her. Her name's Renee. She was my first girlfriend. Um, I'm not going to count high school. Um, but when I graduated, I didn't date for 7 years. Um, that's a whole other story that I'll tell another time. What went on between 1997 and 2004. But at the end of 2004, in December, I met that girl. And I I settled for her because I thought that was all I'll ever get. I I didn't think I deserved better. And so I settled for the worst person I've ever known in my life. And that's saying something because I've known a lot of garbage people. Not only was she abusive, verbally and emotionally, once I moved in with her and her mother, I became suicidal. And for several years, I was I was actively trying to kill myself. And I was hiding it from everybody because we were doing stuff. We had a hobby that would have let me do it and make it look like an accident. If you look, you can see that he has a chain right there. Now, he was playing it safe with that chain, but I was trying to get him to wrap it around my neck. Because I was certain that if he did it just right, and I twitched just the right way, it would have snapped my neck. Because I knew there was no way he could strangle me with it. But I really wanted it to happen, especially while taking that picture, because I blurred her face out of it, but that was Renee by my leg. The reason I blurred her face was because I actually liked the picture, and I've posted it on social media recently. I just couldn't figure out how to crop her out, so I just blurred it. But I wanted that to happen right there, so that she would see it and it would traumatize her for the rest of her life, and she would have to deal with what she did to me. And it would have sucked for everybody else that I knew, but in my head, that was all I could think of. I wanted to get away from her, and that was the first time I could see it happening so easily, where it would torture her if I did it, because even though I knew she didn't give a damn about me, she would still be traumatized if that were to happen to me right in front of her. There was also Renaissance fairs that we did. I don't think I have to explain how easy it would have been to fall on somebody's sword and make it look like an accident. The only reason I didn't was because I actually liked the guys that I was fighting with. I mean, it was choreographed fighting, and you had to trust those guys. And you're literally trusting them with your life. So the last thing I would want to actually do was make one of them believe that he was reckless and killed me. So I never did it. I thought about it a lot, though. Thing is, if I'd have done it that way, I wouldn't have just traumatized the guy who would have had the misfortune of having to clean my blood off his sword. I would have done it in front of a bunch of my friends and their kids and people who paid admission and brought their kids. And it wouldn't have been fair to everyone else around. And that was the only reason I did it. I didn't do it. And just the whole time that I wanted to, the only thing that stopped me was everyone I knew, everyone I cared about. At that point, I wasn't living for me. I was miserable. And I was suffering. There wasn't a day that went by that there wasn't a day that went by that I didn't just want it to end. Now, to this day, I still hear stuff, how she calls me her abuser and her rapist and shit like that. And I've got a lawyer. If I find proof that she's saying stuff about me like that, we're going to court. I'm going to shut her up. Because, seriously, what she did to me is worse than what she's saying I did to her. I had nowhere to go. At least I felt that way. There was one point where she isolated me from my family. And I couldn't have friends that she didn't approve of. Like I said, I couldn't even see my family. She had me fighting with them. And then just cut them off. Really, she had me fighting with my mom, not the rest of my family. It was just wasn't I can't even think of the right thing to say. It's just, it wasn't something that I wanted to be part of. And this was all because I thought she was the best I could do. There was something deeper going from before I ever met her. Years before that. My self-esteem was shit. I was already broken. And because I didn't have a social life really before I met her, I didn't know shit about life. And I was older than her. She was 20 years old when I met her. I was 26. And she had complete control over me. And it's weird because, I mean, as much as I hated my time with her, I did meet some great people. And I know they're going to see this. And I'm probably going to have some conversations with them after I post this, because they had no idea. I mean, it was something that I was able to hide, because I don't know, the stupid thing about it was I was getting laid even though I wasn't having fun. It it was more than I had ever had before. And just it was weird, because it's like, here's this one thing that I couldn't do for a long time. And I stuck around with this person because she was giving that to me. But I was still miserable. And I hate to say it, but it didn't help having friends that I met through her that who were my age, who were so far ahead of me in life. And I knew there was no way I could catch up with. I mean, even when they were complaining about how unstable things were and like they had adult problems, and I was jealous because I wish I had their problems instead of the ones I had. As far as I know, none of them wanted to kill themselves. They had families to support. I don't even know how to describe what I had. But it just wasn't something that I wanted. And I remember I would go to the doctor and I'd have to fill out paperwork, and there would be a section on the back of the paperwork that asked, do you feel safe at home? Do you what is, are you afraid of going back home? Stuff like that. Basically asking, are you being abused? And I wanted to fill it out and say yes so badly, but I couldn't because I didn't know where the hell I was going to go. I mean, one, it's like I didn't want to hear I told you so from my family. Two, I didn't want to hear all the jokes that I was sure were going to come my way because I was the guy getting abused by a girl. And as far as I know, there are no men's shelters like there are women's shelters when you're being abused. And even though my family did take me back after the breakup, it still felt weird. And just a lot of things weren't, a lot of things just didn't add up in my head. I was still questioning everything. It, I don't know. I was, it took a long time to recover. And it took a lot of therapy and a lot of medication. Um, Hell, I remember the week that we split up. A friend of mine had invited me over, asked if I wanted a drink, and I was like, sure. I ended up at his place for 2 days, got blackout drunk, and sat on his couch contemplating shooting myself in the face, but as far as I know, he didn't have a gun, so it didn't happen. And like I said, it just took a long time to recover because that that's just what it was like for me. I mean, I was scared. I was afraid, and what I didn't know was I was going on dealing with depression, but having not been diagnosed. So I didn't know I was dealing with depression. I didn't know I was dealing with anxiety. I didn't know I had any kind of mental illness. And what was worse was I was living with somebody who was self diagnosing herself and constantly going on and then taking it out on me. And I couldn't be sick and I couldn't have problems because it would become a competition and it would be like, well, yeah, you might feel like this, but I've got this and I've got this. It's like, it was, there was nothing I could do. Um, but I've already mentioned there was a breakup. I was out of town one day helping some friends put stuff in storage, and when I came back later that day, she had my stuff packed up in trash bags and just told me I had till sundown to find someplace else to go. What fucked me up the most about that was I believed I was the problem, even though I wasn't. Now, over the past 10 years, I've proven to myself that I wasn't the problem. A lot of my friends have told me I wasn't the problem, but I had to prove it to myself, not to them. Even my friends that she introduced me to, the ones that have stuck around, that are still my friends, were telling me I wasn't the problem. I mean, these are people that knew her longer than they knew me. And I don't know if it was just the damage that she did or if it was just the depression and the anxiety that I had that were keeping me from believing that I wasn't the problem. I can't even really say what it was that finally got me to realize that I wasn't. Um, at the same time, I don't have a real happy ending to this. I haven't gotten better. I still have, I still deal with depression and I'm still dealing with anxiety and I have PTSD and I was recently diagnosed with OCD and I didn't know anything about it really. And I'm still trying to learn about it because it's not that stuff you see on TV because I don't have those habits that everybody thinks obsessive compulsive disorder is. And I guess the happy ending is that I got help. And I know there's people that care about me. And it's not just that. it's not just that I have people, it's the people that I have. I have a support group that 20 years ago I never would have thought I would even meet. Um, right now, for example, I'll mention some names, just first names. I'm not going to give screen names or anything. I don't want people stalking them. But for starters, Sarah helped me the most. There's also Starla and Linda, Jamie and Rita. Jamie and Rita have come into my life recently. But in a short amount of time, they've helped a lot. Um, Without even knowing the full story. It's just, they knew the right thing to say. There's also Claire. And, but, like I said, there's Linda, and I can't even put into words what she means to me. But they have all been in my corner. There's also Eddie and Nick. I'm not going to cut them out of this. There's Rick, who really got the ball rolling for me. And, like, gave me an opportunity that I never thought I would have. And really, he set the ball rolling. I said that already, didn't I? But it's like, without his guidance and his friendship, I I don't think I would have been able to last as long as I have. And if there's anybody out there with a story like mine, just remotely like that, with just, I want you to know that things aren't going to be better right away, but they can get better. You, it's like anything else. It's like, think about it like, if you start working out, when you first start off, it's going to hurt. But the more you do it, the better it's going to get, and the less it's going to hurt. And you'll start seeing the results that you're looking for. It just takes time. So, just whatever you do, don't take my old ideas and make them happen. Do whatever you have to do to survive. Just don't stop living. I I don't have an inspirational quote or anything like that. Just find a way. I know you can. I might not know you at all, but I know deep down inside you have it in you to make it. Don't think just because of this this dream you had years ago. Don't think because that feels impossible. Don't let that discourage you. You might make it happen. And even if you don't, just you'll find something. I'm not saying settle. I'm saying just do what you have to do. Make your life long. That's all I could really say. Don't shorten it. You're you're worth a lot to somebody. I can't tell you who. I'm just some guy on a screen that you're watching. But somebody's going to come along and show you that you have value and you have meaning. They might have to beat it into your head, but it's going to get there. And you're going to get there. And just keep that in mind. Keep going. Because with everything I left out, added into what I've told you, I've seen a lot of shit. And I've seen people break after going through less than I have. And if I can deal with the shit I've dealt with, you can deal with what you're dealing with. You're probably going through something a lot worse than what I have. And you've made it this far. And you could get better. I'll post some links along with this video so that you can do what you need to do. But like I said, just don't give up on yourself. Because at the end of the day, you might not be all you have, but if you don't have yourself, you've got nothing.